Today, we're diving into a truly haunting epic. It's the story of a warrior who wasn't just cursed with death, but with something so much worse, an endless, agonizing life, and just maybe the faintest glimmer of redemption thousands of years in the future.
Just imagine hearing those words, spoken by Lord Krishna himself. This is the heart of our story. A terrifying curse that doesn't grant you the release of death, but instead sentences you to an eternal life of suffering. It's a punishment so profound it's been echoing through the ages.
So here's a wild thought for you. Could someone who actually witnessed a war fought 5,000 years ago still be alive, walking among us right now? Well, according to this legend, the answer is a mind-blowing yes. This isn't just some dusty old tale. It's a living mystery that connects our ancient past to a prophesied future.
So how on earth does a warrior, someone literally born from a god's boon, fall so far, so spectacularly? To really get a grip on the crime, you first have to understand the man and the deep, deep pain that absolutely shattered him.
You see, this is the massive conflict at the very core of Ashwatthama's being. On one hand, he was basically a demigod, born from a boon by Lord Shiva, with a divine gem embedded in his forehead that made him invincible. Pretty cool, right? But then you flip the coin, and his childhood was just brutal. He grew up in crushing poverty, so poor in fact that his mother once gave him rice flour mixed with water and tried to pass it off as milk just so he wouldn't feel the shame. Can you imagine? This mix of divine power and very human suffering created a really conflicted soul.
And here's where it all goes wrong. In the absolute heat of the Kurukshetra war, the enemy army knew they couldn't beat his father, Drona, in a fair fight, so they used a devastating lie. They shouted, "Ashwatthama is dead." Hearing this, his father, completely heartbroken, dropped his weapons in grief, and in that single moment of vulnerability, he was slaughtered.
When Ashwatthama found out how his father had been killed through a trick, a lie, his grief didn't just curdle into anger. No, it exploded into a blind, all-consuming rage. It was like a fire that just incinerated his conscience, his honor, everything. The noble warrior he was supposed to be died right then and there, and a vengeful killer took his place.
So, with his judgment completely gone, Ashwatthama's quest for revenge wasn't going to be some honorable duel on the battlefield. Oh no, it was about to become a horrifying descent into pure darkness, a series of acts so terrible they would seal his fate for all time.
And the escalation, wow, it was terrifyingly fast. First, he sees an owl hunting sleeping crows and gets a twisted idea. He sneaks into the enemy camp at night. In the dark, he murders 5 sleeping boys, thinking they were his enemies, the Pandava brothers. They weren't. When he's confronted, what does he do? He unleashes the Brahmastra, a celestial weapon of mass destruction, capable of ending the world. But his final sin, this was the absolute worst. He aimed that apocalyptic power at an unborn child, still safe in its mother's womb.
Okay, this final, heinous act, this got the attention of Lord Krishna. Attacking the innocent, and especially an unborn child, that was a line that you just do not cross, and it demanded a punishment unlike anything the world had ever seen.
Krishna stepped in immediately. He performed a miracle, saving the unborn baby who would grow up to be king. Then he went straight for Ashwatthama. As punishment, he ripped that divine gem right out of his forehead, the source of all his power, leaving a wound that would never, ever heal. And then came the curse.
And the words of the curse were so specific, so chilling. Ashwatthama was condemned to wander the earth alone, forgotten, in constant physical agony from his wound for thousands and thousands of years. He would desperately want to die, but death would never grant him that peace.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. 5,000 years. At least. Great empires have risen and crumbled to dust in that time. Whole civilizations have come and gone. And through it all, the legend says Ashwatthama is still out there, walking, suffering, and paying the price for one single night of uncontrollable rage.
But here is the twist. The story doesn't just end there in eternal misery. As incredible as it sounds, hidden inside this terrible curse is a tiny sliver of hope, a prophecy about a final, distant redemption.
So he kind of lives this dual existence now. On one hand, he's a figure of folklore. People tell stories of seeing a giant wounded man near remote temples, a mysterious figure who's there one moment and gone the next. But on the other hand, he's a figure of prophecy. It's said that at the very end of our current age, the Kali Yuga,
Ashwatthama will finally meet Lord Kalki, the final incarnation of Vishnu.
And in that final epic battle against evil, his curse will become his greatest strength. All the knowledge, all the pain, all the penance he's accumulated over millennia will transform him. He'll become an invincible warrior, but this time, he'll be fighting for good. And in doing so, he might finally get a chance to atone for his ancient, terrible crimes.
So after all that, what's the big lesson here? What's the point of this incredible, tragic story? Well, beyond all the epic battles and divine curses, there's a really powerful message for our own lives.
At its heart, this is a story about the inescapable law of karma. Ashwatthama had divine gifts, he had immense power, but none of that could protect him from the consequences of his own actions. His fate is probably the ultimate proof that it's our choices, not where we come from, that truly define our destiny.
Think about it. One single night of unchecked rage, one terrible act driven by grief and ego, and it casts a shadow that has literally lasted for thousands of years. It's a pretty heavy reminder of the weight our choices carry.
And that leaves us with one final nagging question to think about. What he did was monstrous, for sure. But is any crime, any sin, so great that it deserves an eternal punishment? It really makes you think about justice, about forgiveness, and whether, after millennia of suffering, redemption is ever truly possible.